Welcome, Mitch Laing. So
Howdy.
we're here to talk about the new ventures you're working on. I think we kind of you've been a staple in this community for many years, whether it be in the music scene or on the radio stations and even a TV personality locally. But today we're going to kind of focus on the production of some movies that you're working on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Before we get into the movies, real quick, why don't you kind of give us a little bit of an overview, a little bit about Mitch? How does someone go from, the professional music scene? I think it still aligns with being a DJ, but making that transition from being a musician to wanting to get into film.
I've always enjoyed acting my entire life. I was a very hyperactive, overimaginative kid, and my parents they didn't believe in diagnosing the ADD, ADHD,
Right.
or I found out later that I was extremely dyslexic, but they didn't even tell me that until I was 18 and graduated from high school. And I'm like, oh, that's good information to know now. And they're like,
Right.
well, if we told you that, you would just use it as an excuse to not do as well as you did. So,
Sure.
so I thank them for that at least. But they always got me into acting at a young age. I did the little theater as a kid, did church plays. But my dad was a musician, and so of course that's where my interest in it started. Is watching him and my uncles and friends jam, and so I gravitated to that more than anything else because that's just a fun thing to do. And after about 6 months of playing with him, I was about 11, 12, and Dad was like, Mitch, you need to go find you a band to join. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. It's like, well, go to church. Churches have praise bands all the time. Go find you a praise band. So I went and I did that. And at first it was all cool. It was your regular Wednesday night church thing, Sunday evenings for the youth group.
Right.
And then they're like, all right, Mitch, 2 weeks, we got an actual real show you got to get ready for. I'm like, what does that mean, an actual real show? We've been playing for months now. Turns out they were one of those bands that go and do the youth retreats and
Okay.
big
Yeah.
camps and stuff. So my first real show was in front of 1,500 people with them, and I was like, "Oh, this is very different than the church services." So that once music kind of took over from there, started playing in a Christian metal band from the church group. We were doing all the all-age music venues from the early 2000s, like Cotton Port Coffee and the Paraground, the Sanctuary,
Right.
the Florida Lee that happened over in downtown Monroe for a while. And then, natural opportunities arise. You switch bands. But the thing that kind of got me into film was I was in bands all through high school. My band got signed and we did an album and we did some tours and stuff. So I wasn't thinking about college or caring about anything like that until a year after high school when the band broke up. And then you're kind of left with this cold reality of,
Now what?
yeah, I can't go to college because I definitely didn't keep the GPA or funds or any kind of I can't get
Sure.
any Pell Grants or anything. So I thought about, well, I've always loved movies, acting, maybe I should dip back into that. I learned how to write scripts from books, and I implore anybody that wants to be a director, start your knowledge base by learning how to write scripts. It's going to be the most important thing you do in as far as anything else when it comes to storytelling. Learn how to write scripts first.
Tell me why. Give me some examples of why that's the most important thing.
Well, because as a director, you're a storyteller, and even if you want to be able to read somebody else's script and dissect it and ask all the questions that a director needs to ask to analyze it and figure out where the story is, the best way to get associated with that is by doing it yourself.
Makes sense.
If you do Hunter S. Thompson once said that if you want to learn how to write like a writer, just copy that person's stuff verbatim, word for word. He did that. He copied the Odyssey from cover to cover just so he could learn how to write like that, and then use that to go towards his own stuff. And
Okay.
I tell people that want to write all the time, just start writing. Because here's the thing: the first 3 or 4 things you write, it's going to be garbage. It's going to be doo doo. So you need to go ahead and just get them out the way now.
Sure.
And the more you do it, the better you get at
What
it.
was the first thing you wrote?
I wrote a screenplay called The Coffin Nail, which was a bunch of Edgar Allan Poe short stories that I had managed to turn into one story. And it wasn't that great. It wasn't.
But you did it.
I did it, and we ended up being a 30-minute short that we did film that nobody can see because it's terrible. It's bad. But,
I got you, but you did it.
But you got to do it. You got to get the garbage out before you can learn to get better at it. You can't be good at something until you fail.
No, I completely agree. You know, it's mentality that I have is that if you're going to fail, let's fail forward.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the fastest way to learn a lot of times is to learn from your mistakes.
Yes.
So I agree 100% with you. So you're out of school. You're not playing with the band anymore. Reality sets in. I got to do something different. So where does this take us?
Well, my options were limited. I didn't have a whole lot of things that I could do. But the one option that I did have was I could go and get me a job at a TV station.
Okay.
I could at least get hands-on experience with television quality cameras, how the way the sound is, because when I did Coffin Nail, I had no idea that you had to record sound separately. I didn't know that you had to light scenes. We just had a camera and just pointed.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of where I figured I would get some more experience doing that. And the same time that I was doing that, I was developing my screenwriting process, because whenever I wrote Coffin Nail, I wrote 4 of the scripts like back to back. I just would finish that one, and I'd just go right to the next one. I'd finish that one, go right to the next one.
And these were just topics that you had in your mind, like, oh, this would be really cool if we did a movie about this? Okay.
Yeah, I did like
all original stuff.
Yeah, I mean, as original as anybody can be,
Right.
I wrote a trailer park stoner comedy called Ne'er-Do-Wells, a couple of horror movies, a sequel to Ne'er-Do-Wells, and I was just practicing.
Okay.
I didn't expect any of those things to get made, but I wanted to write it because I need, like I said, it's going to be bad, so at least get the bad stuff out first.
So I take it that you're a film enthusiast, right?
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about kind of where's your inspirations come from? What's your wheelhouse when it comes to film? What do you like to watch?
I was actually talking to somebody about this the other day. There's a weird dichotomy that I live in because I, for the most part, do horror movies or horror comedies and stuff like that. But if I'm being honest, I don't really like watching a lot of horror movies. Well, I don't like watching a lot of modern day current horror movies because they are all so grotesquely accurate to the violence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's reached a tipping point to me. I think that everybody's just trying to be the most shocking that they can.
Right.
And I understand if you want to do gore and if you want to do blood and violence, do it, but it has to serve your story or at least serve a joke or a setup. You can't just keep slitting people's throats.
So do you feel like you relate a lot more to the older type of horror?
Absolutely. I'm an 80s, 90s kid.
Okay.
So I grew up on the Nightmare on Elm Streets, the Friday the 13th, the Evil Deads, but I also grew up on the Goonies, Batman, Dick
Goonies Tracy. Is one of my all-time favorite shows.
It's one of the best movies ever, really.
Yeah.
And so I like and Ghostbusters. And there's a lot of great. I remember I was also a big Pink Panther, Inspector Clouseau fan. And not Steve Martin. I'm talking about Peter Sellers. The original
Old
Jacques
school.
Clouseau.
Yeah.
So I've always been a big fan of that almost, I don't want to call it generic horror, but, it's the episodic horror that, that we love to be entertained by, that we don't leave the theater or leave the movie with a sense of dread and hopelessness.
Right.
I like my movies the cheesy Hollywood ending. I liked it. I like walking away from the movie happy. And if I don't walk away from the movie happy, I want to know that, all right, the sequel's going to fix that. It's setting up for this. One of my favorite movies, Empire Strikes Back, it's a downer of an ending. but it sets up for the payoff in the
I
next
know.
one.
The most disappointing thing that can happen to me in a film is if they have that cliffhanger and they never come out with a
Never
sequel.
pay it off.
I'm like, man, what happened? I mean, I so want to know how that thing ended. It's just like there's a movie I was watching the other day. I think it's called Salt, with Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
She's double agent or whatever. But right there at the end, you're like, I know they're coming out with a sequel, and it never
Right.
came out, and I was a little disappointed. But hey, you can't win them all. So we're out of high school. We've toured for a while with the band. You're like, hey, now what? So you're talking about TV. Did you immediately go into did you do TV before you did radio?
Yeah, I did. I've done TV a long time. This year will be my 12th year of working at the television station here locally.
And what kind of roles did you perform with the station?
Well, whenever I started in 2006, because that's whenever I first started. Everybody starts out the same. Everybody starts out on camera in the morning show. That's pretty much where everyone starts. And 6 months after that, I got bumped up to audio operator. And then, funny enough, at that around 2008, I started working on my first film. So I was making a little bit of money with that film, and I was a very young, cheap-to-live type of cat. So I left and started focusing on doing the movie stuff, and did 2 movies in that era and all the way up to 2012, and realized that I needed a 9-to-5 job to keep, because the money movie's good, but it just comes in one lump sum, and then you have to live, So I went back to the television station in 12 and have been there ever since.
Okay, so when did you get involved in radio?
Actually, last year.
Okay.
Last year. And it was because of the on-air personality stuff that I was doing with the TV station. I was friends with Worm at Rock 106. Right. He was in the Bogman film with us, and we were doing stuff for that. And he just was like, "Hey, man, we need somebody to come fill in some time slots. Would you be interested in filling in?" And I did well. And he was like, "Do you want to just keep doing it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is fun." So I've been doing it ever since then.
So with your experience at the TV station and then now in radio, I would have to probably think that this has really enhanced your education level to be able to bring different quality to your filmmaking.
Well, that is true, but I will have to say this, and I've said this a number of times. I do have to give all my thanks to my film education to Professor Brian Dunn over at Louisiana Delta Community College. I told you I wrote 4 scripts earlier, right? Well, the Trailer Park Stoner comedy, the Ne'er-Do-Wells one, somehow or another, that script ended up in his hands through one of his students that was a friend of mine. And they reached out and was like, this is really good. We'd like to sit down with you and talk to you about making this. And at first, they just wanted to buy the script flat out so that they could work on it. And I was like, can I direct it? And they're like, "You ever directed anything before?" Like, "Oh, a short film. Can we see it?" "No." "Did you go to school for this?" "No." "You ever read any books or take any classes?" "No, but I'm real gung-ho about it." And they're like, "All right, man, show us your short film." And I'm like, "It's really bad." So I showed them the coffin nail. It's like, "I don't know what I'm doing, guys, but just see it for what it could have been." And we watched it, and Brian looked at me after we were done. He was like, "You're right. You don't know what you're doing. But you do have a really good eye for where the camera needs to be in shots. So come and apprentice under us for 6 months. Meet up at my house three days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We'll do a 3-hour class every day. I'll give you all the education that you would get at a film school, and I'll do it for free."
So what's the gentleman's name again?
Professor Brian Dunn.
Okay, so does North Delta, does a community college, does it offer a film class?
Well, I do not believe so. At the time, they had a program with ULM's communications department.
That makes sense.
That people that needed something to work under for their final credits, or what's that word? Whenever they have to work on something. It's not an apprenticeship, because that's what I did, but intern. They had to intern somewhere in their field. So we would get people from the class all the time to work on the Ne'er-do-Wells movie when we were working on it, and that's where a majority of our crew came from.
The cheap labor.
Yeah.
So the information that you learned from him, um, that's what you say has had the biggest impact
Oh yeah,
on
I still
uh,
use it to this day.
you taking things kind of to the next level.
Yes, yes.
So tell me some of the key techniques that you took away from him that made such a big impact.
Well, I mean, because I didn't know anything. I didn't know any. He gave me the basics. You know, he taught me about 3-point lighting. He taught me how to whatever camera you. It doesn't matter what kind of model or brand. He taught me how to. You take the camera. This is how you do. You set your settings. These are all the things you need to focus on. These are the things you got to set it for to make sure it's at this peak. This, audio, making sure the mics are placed at this point so that the level doesn't peak at this. He sat me down and showed me how to edit, and edit's what I do for a living with the TV station most of the time. And so
It's like he gave you just a very solid foundation to build off of.
he gave me an amazing gift that all I can do is say thank you so much, man. Because I wouldn't be able to do any of this without him.
Something you said a little bit earlier that I don't want people that watch this to ever lose sight of. You had talked about you were living really cheap during this time, and had you had a house full of bills, you wouldn't have been able to do half of what you've probably already accomplished.
Absolutely not.
And it's because that you had a passion. Number one, you were set up financially from the standpoint you didn't have a lot of debt, and it gave you the flexibility to really pursue your dreams. I know a lot of young adults, I like sometimes call kids, but young adults, whether they're getting out of high school or they're getting out of college, don't really understand that if you truly want to pursue a dream, you better not have a lot of baggage when it comes to pursue that dream, because you're not going to be able to go very far unless you have the funds to make it happen. There's a whole lot that can be done on a shoestring if you don't have a big weight that you carry on your back with debt at that point. So I think that would you say that definitely was part of the catalyst that helped you be able to pursue your dream?
Absolutely, but I will also say this too. I've been with my wife now for the past 14 years. We have 2 beautiful sons, 1 7, 1 2, and the past, the stuff that's all been happening with Open Heart Productions and my company and stuff has all been kind of happening within the past 4 years, and so it's been twice as hard because, like you said, back when I was doing it before, it was just me. That's all I had to worry about. Now I've been doing it, in this serious capacity. Really, we've been doing a movie once a year since 2021, and that is tough because I'm not a big Hollywood movie guy. I'm not a well-paid film director. I make just enough to do what I have to do. And it's really difficult because you're looking forward. You're like, yeah, this is really difficult now, but all it takes is one thing to stick.
That's right.
And if that one thing sticks, we're set, but we got to get the one thing.
But having that obviously, if you guys have been married for 14 years and you've been TV station for 12, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means that she was with you in the very, very beginning of this process. I have to assume she's a willing partner to this process.
I mean, she's part of the ride now. Whether she's here, hang on,
that
baby.
support is so important.
Would
you agree with that?
It really is. It's very difficult to stay focused and stay as positive and stay driven whenever the world is just constantly from all angles trying to tell you that you're failing. And it's really, really hard sometimes. People say, "Oh, Mitch, you're always just so positive and happy." It's like, well, then I'm a sad clown, because it's like probably the same way that Chris Farley was always laughing and smiling. Deep down, it's tough being that happy. Yeah. It's tough being that positive. And this is the first time in my life that I'm starting to see a little bit of reward from all the years of hard work.
So what pushes you? What I I haven't experienced as much adversity as some people have. But being self-employed myself, I mean, there's adversity that we have to go through being self-employed, depending on the economy, to help, or at least have some influence on the business that we have. But for you, where do you find your inspiration to keep going when things get tough? I mean, you're an independent filmmaker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you classify yourself as an independent filmmaker?
Absolutely.
To have a wife, two kids, more than one career going on at the same time, but still pursuing your passion. What drives you to do that? Where do you find your inspiration to take that next step and to keep going forward with it?
Well, I mean, one of the most obvious answers is prayer and God. Like however you define Him. People define Him as different things. I try my best not to judge anyone's belief of whatever they want to believe. You can pray to a tree for all I care if that gives you the strength that you need. Mine does come from the Lord, and but I think more than that sometimes it's the fear of failure, because there's an old saying that you never really fail until you give up.
Mm-hmm.
And I just keep thinking to myself, well, I 100% will be a failure if I stop. But if I keep going, there's always that chance. There's always that sliver of hope along the horizon that I might be able to get to that, even if it's a mirage. Just you only fail if you give up.
Yeah, no, I agree that one of the first, it may sound like a broken record because I say it so much, when Alex over there is running the show for us today, but when we hired Alex, one of the first things that I told him is that I give him permission to fail, because I know a lot of times that's people will freeze. Sometimes we're all afraid of failure on some level,
Mm-hmm.
but when you remove some of that fear that says, you know what, I'm going to learn from this. I know I'm going to fail. I'm just going to acknowledge that up front. But I'm not going to fail twice at the same thing. We're just going to keep pushing
I'm
forward.
not going to fail the same way
Yeah,
again.
absolutely.
And my 7-year-old, he's definitely getting to the age that he's looking at Daddy and he's watching Daddy and he sees all this movie stuff and he knows he understands what's going on. And I don't want him to see me give up. Because if he sees me give up, then he'll think it's
okay to give up at that point.
And
I mean, it's our kids are watching everything that we do. Now, one of the things that we talked about earlier before we got started here is you were brought in to produce a local reality show.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Me and Brian Dunn did a pilot, or what they call a sizzle reel, for a show called Trailer Kings back in 2013, and nothing ended up happening from it, and we all kind of moved on from our lives. And 4 years later, I was on tour in Canada, actually, and I get a phone call from David, who was a part of that, and said, "Hey, man, we got a new movie, or a new show we've been working on. We got about 5 episodes shot. We're looking to find someone to come and edit all this stuff together. Can you help us out? We can pay you X amount of dollars an episode." I'm like, "Sounds good to me, my man." So I get back home. He shows up, and he just shows up and just hands me 5 SD cards and is like, "All right, here you go. Here's 5 episodes. No script, no what is it. Just here you go. Have fun." And then I look at it, and over half the footage is out of focus. And I was like, I managed to pull together from the stuff that wasn't out of focus about like a 20-minute one episode. And I was like, "Listen, man." He's like, "How many episodes we get out of that one?" I'm like, "You got one good one. The rest of this is not salvageable at all." He's like, "Well, man, we had it on autofocus." I'm like, "That was your first mistake right there." I was like, "Listen, dude, I got a couple of guys. If y'all got any money from sponsors or anything like that, I got a couple of camera dudes. I got a couple of folks on sound that can come out there. We'll help you out and do this for real." And from there on, we kind of were just the producers of the show after that.
Wow, and that went for 3 seasons?
3 seasons, 2017 to 2019.
Man, that's awesome to be part of something like that. So what did that do for you as a filmmaker, as a producer? I mean, did that give you any more confidence? I mean, to be able to run 3 seasons?
No, it made me want to quit.
Did it really?
It made me want to quit doing it altogether, just because that was a very difficult show to do. Because, you know, whenever you do a movie or a TV show, it usually, we talked about earlier, it starts at the script.
Mm-hmm.
Well, reality shows already have a very loose script format to begin with, but these guys did not do scripts. They not only did they not do scripts, they don't do setup. That, you know, like, hey, can you say this? No, I can't. But I can cut this tree down and make a comment as it falls down. I'm like,
Okay.
all right. And
so the normal way of doing things was just tossed outside the window.
Yeah.
So every day or every episode was a new adventure.
Every episode was they would hand me SD cards, and I would have to watch every second of every SD card and make notes about what's going on. Get them over to my house and film interviews with them in the backyard, asking them questions about the video footage that I watched.
So that was a lot of work.
Oh yeah, and like and I love the guys. They were great dudes, and two of them were in the Bogman movie. The only reason the third guy wasn't was because he's in North Carolina. So like I'm really close with all of them still, but all 4 of us will attest, if you press hard enough, that by the end of that 3rd season, we were ready to be done.
Yeah.
We did not want to be on the ride anymore.
But it's one of those things you just never know until you get neck deep in it.
You never know. And I did learn a lot. I learned a lot about what not to do. But I also, you get really good at guerrilla style filming tactics. Like you get really good at quickly getting the camera ready, you know, because they're only going to blow this thing up one time, you know, and sometimes they don't wait for the 1, 2, 3. It's like, whoa, we're not ready. Hold up, you know. So,
at least it prepared you for what you don't want to do.
It was like boot camp, you know. Like I remember, I almost died from they would blow up trees by cutting out holes in the tree trunk and shoving tannerite into it, and then backing up.
And sometimes you probably didn't back up far enough.
Oh yeah,
right?
and then they would shoot a gun. They would shoot the tannerite to cause it to blow up. And I remember one time sitting there with the camera like so.
Debris flying everywhere.
And a branch comes right past the camera. I feel it right here, and it embeds into the tree beside me like a knife. And I'm like,
oh, goodness.
I'm going home. I'm done.
Hey, but I bet it was a good camera shot though, right?
Yeah, sure. I couldn't use any of the audio of it because
I could imagine.
I immediately started cursing. I was like, what the fuck? You're crazy. I'm going home. I'm going home.
So let's move forward to, I guess, the film that has got you the most exposure. That's with Bogman.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of you had a premiere earlier last month, right?
Yes, sir.
And that film's got noticed.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic.
And it was filmed here locally, right?
Yeah. There we filmed some over at Leah's LeCompte over in Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
We filmed out at Mr. Burl Stewart's ranch out in Swartz, Louisiana. We filmed at Richard Henderson's land out there near the Eris type. It's deep on out there. But we did get to have fun and take a trip out to Broken Bow, Oklahoma for a weekend to film. So it was mostly filmed here in town with the exception of the weekend in Broken Bow.
So tell me, so you wrote the script for that one?
Yes, sir.
So you wrote the script, you directed it. I'm sure you had I don't know if you had help casting it, but you had your hand or your fingerprint all over that film. So y'all shot it, you edited it, then what? So how did that film get noticed and who noticed it?
One of the big things that helped us the most was, and I'll give this to all you indie filmmakers out there, submit your films to film festivals. Even if you don't think you'll win, even if you don't get accepted into the film festival,
it's all about exposure, right?
Submit, because every movie that's submitted, somebody has to watch it.
Right.
They have to watch it all the way through so that they can make a decision on whether it needs to go into the thing or not.
So how many festivals did you submit it to?
Probably 20, 25 festivals.
So out of the 25 festivals, how many responses did you get back?
Well, here's the thing about that. Most of them were still pending. We, of the 25 that we submitted to, 5 have already happened in like their process. We were not selected for 4, but we were selected as a finalist at the Scream Queen Film Festival for, it was supposed to be in Tennessee that year, but it's normally in New Orleans.
Okay.
And it was off the back of that those people reached out to us and said, hey, have y'all got distribution for this film yet? And I'm like, no, we don't. It's like, well, here's a list of emails of people to talk to, and this, that, and the other, and things like that started happening. And our assistant director for the film, a gentleman by the name of Damon Adcock, because here's the thing that you had said something earlier that I had all my fingers in every part of this, and even though that might be true to an extent, I could not make this movie by myself. I had a very amazing, extensive team of people that were very dedicated and worked very hard to see this through. Just to name a few names, I could not have done this without these people. Daniel Stark, Bree Hill, Richard Henderson, Kyle Simpson, Damon Adcock, John Schwitzer. That's like the list. I could go on and on. Like they.
No, I'm glad you brought that up. Whether it's a business, making a film, from an entrepreneur standpoint, every great thing that's happened typically takes more than one person. There's got to be a team that's behind it. You may be the person that's the head of the team. You're the person maybe you get all the accolades, but I really appreciate you giving the credit to the people that helped make it possible.
Yeah.
The best vision that anybody could have is just a vision until you are able to put it into action. And in most cases, it's going to require a lot of people to help. And it's going to require a lot of smart people that have skills and talents that you don't have to be able to make something happen. So I think it's great that you mentioned those people.
And I tell my guys and my crew, guys and girls, all the time, it was like, don't be afraid to come to me and give me an idea. Even if you think the idea is stupid, even if I tell you the idea is stupid, don't be afraid to come and tell me, because just you saying that idea might trigger another idea with me or this guy or this guy. And say, hey, we can't do that, but what if we did this instead? And we would not have gotten there unless somebody said something.
But it's also cool that you mentioned that this these festivals that you submit to, this one's like you're a finalist, but hey, do you have distribution? Here's some contacts in the industry you need to reach out to. I mean, that's huge. I mean, just being able to have that connection.
And that does I'm glad you said that, because it brings it back around to Damon Adcock. He also is a filmmaker. He has a mentor just like I did, who's also named Brian, over in California.
Okay.
And he always knew that he had that card. He had that in his back pocket, but he'd never had anything that he felt proud enough or strong enough about
to be able to use that card.
Here, please look at this, And he did. He used that card for us. So thank you, Damon. And the guy looked at it and said, dude, this might not be Avatar, but as far as like a horror comedy movie, like low budget horror comedy, this is great. Like, talk to this guy, Leif Holtz. He is a pitch agent, a film agent for Focus First International. Tell him that I said take these guys on as a client. And so we did, and he did. He didn't charge us any upfront fees. He didn't make us sign a contract. He just said, if Brian trusts you and says it's good, we'll have a handshake agreement. Give me 20% of whatever I get for you, and we'll go from there.
So as the pieces start falling into place, that's got to be a good feeling.
It is a really good feeling, but also because whenever you have so many failures beforehand,
you're cautious.
When things like that happen, you're constantly okay, when's the bottom going to fall out, because there's so many times where so many great things almost happened to me that I started running my mouth about it. Like one time, a band that I was with was almost offered an opening spot for the Jonas Brothers. And
Okay.
so I started like, oh, I'm going to go do this. And I started telling my work, I'm going to need a month off and this, that, and the other. And then that just fell right through because
Right.
nobody would give a contract with anybody's name on it. So I was like, oh, so this was just a scam then. I'm so glad I ran my mouth on television for 3 weeks about this, you know?
So you got connected with an agent. You called him a pitch agent. It's basically
Pitch agent, movie rep, multiple things that they kind of go by.
I got you. So he took you guys on as a client, and he started making some connections.
He started.
And then he got you connected with who?
He actually found us 4 different distribution offers on top of the distribution offers that the other film festival had. So altogether, we had about 6 different offers.
How do you choose out of the 6?
You get into Zoom meetings and you talk to people face to face, because
nothing's guaranteed, right?
Nothing's guaranteed. But here's the thing that I noticed doing all those Zoom calls and talking to all those people is they all start to kind of say the same thing after a while. Just different ways of saying the same thing.
Right.
But the reason we went with the people that we went with was because they were legitimately excited for the movie. Like even our rep, Leaf, whenever we got done with the first initial Zoom call, he was like, I've never seen an acquisition agent that excited about a movie before. So we definitely need to give these guys some real thought. And
So that's really good to hear because I can imagine in this industry that I know that you'll have people that are able to look at something and see if it's got the it factor or not. But for a lot of times, I feel like people are just throwing darts at a dartboard saying, we'll take it on, we'll toss it out. If it catches, it catches. If it doesn't, it doesn't. No harm, no foul for us. We hadn't spent much money, just a little bit of time doing it. But when you find that one person who believes in what you're doing, you just change the whole game from I'm not a number, I'm a partner with someone that truly gets what I'm trying to do and is going to be behind the project that I put out there.
Yeah.
To me, that matters.
Yes.
Somebody could talk money with me, or they can talk what it's going to take us to that next level. Passion matters to me.
Yeah. And Green Apple Entertainment was the company that we ended up inevitably agreeing to. But one of the reasons that we were so excited and happy about doing it is one of the things that the guys was saying to us when we were doing our meetings was, we've got 5 different film divisions in our company, and the creature features is the one underdeveloped thing that we want to start expanding on more, and we want to start building some creature feature franchises. And I was like, oh man, if you're looking for franchises, I got 9 more movies planned off the back of this Bigfoot film.
Talking my language.
Yeah,
right?
I got the sequel already written. It's about mermaids. Like we've already got all this pre-production plan. We got the cast, we got the crew, we've got the equipment, we got the locations. All we need is capital, and we can get this thing going, baby. Let's talk. And they have been very, very positive. They have taken everything we've said, everything we've sent. They've been taking us seriously, like we're professionals, not just some Louisiana backwater, production company in a garage. Because I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of what we are.
But a lot of people. I mean, you gotta have your one. You gotta have the first start. There's not too many people that can say, "Hey, I started off with all of this. Now I'm ready to, present my film." And quite frankly, there's a lot of people that feel like they won't get off the starting line because they feel like I've got to have all of this together before I can.
Yeah.
And I think they miss so many opportunities by that.
I'm a big fan of always shoot your shot. Always shoot your shot. If you think that you talking to this person might be something that helps push you forward or get your project next to the next level, you fail if you don't do that.
Right.
Everything you don't do is a missed opportunity. There's a rap lyric: "Scared money, you don't make money." I don't know 100% if that quote was right.
So, did you sign a deal with Apple?
Yes, we have. We signed a 7-year contract with them. We're in the deliverable process right now,
Now it's
and
not Apple like Mac, but it's what's the full name of the company?
Green Apple
Okay,
Entertainment.
I didn't want to mislead you by
Yeah,
saying that
yeah,
you signed a deal with Apple, and
yeah. I mean, you did a little bit of research on them.
I did.
They might not be Apple, but they're not
Oh
small
yeah,
fry.
400 titles, 400 plus titles that they're repping right now, and there was two films that I've actually seen that's on their in their catalog.
Right?
So I mean, they're legit.
It's a good start, and they're going to be focusing on Bogman. That's going to be their main focus. They're trying to get it released to the world and overseas by September, October of this
So when we
year.
say release, what does release look like to a novice? I don't really understand what release really means.
Well, there's different tiers of release. I am also learning about this. This is all new waters for me. I'm so used to doing things the way you have to get them done that I've never had to do things the way they actually need to be done. So it's a learning process. There's a number of things that we have to prepare the film for. Like we have to send it like audio in 3 different tracks. So for if they sell it overseas, someone can overdub, and things like that. So they're going to be pursuing selling it overseas in Japan and Europe and Australia and South America and stuff like that. They're also going to be pitching it to all the major platforms. The main 2 that I know that we're not going to get is HBO and Netflix because we don't climb the K Mountain.
Right.
I think we had talked a little bit about that
Sure.
earlier. But all the other platforms, it's free range and very possible that we could get on. We're looking at trying to get on Halloween this year in October.
Okay, that'd be cool.
Which I'm very excited about because that's what I watch every October is Halloween.
What kind of timeline do you anticipate the release process taking before, they got everything that they need to be able to release it out, and you can kind of see how the reception is to the film?
Well, we're still in the process of getting our stuff together. Our deadline to have everything to them is the 27th of this month. So that's what we're working towards right now. We're making great progress on that, so we definitely will get it before then. But they told me that after that, it's pretty much a 3-month process between PR, promotion, selling, reaching out to other platforms. That's just about how long it takes to get all that
So
done.
in theory, by the end of the year, we can know where it's going to be published at, and for those who are interested, where they can go watch it.
Absolutely. By September or October, we will know exactly where it's all going to be at.
And that's just exciting. And you currently have some other stuff that you're working on.
Yes, because they were talking about wanting to build franchises, and I ran my mouth about, hey, I got 3 scripts ready right now. So they're like, all right, we'll go ahead and send us one. And so I did. It's the sequel for Bogman's Sea of Madness. It's based off of a book my friend John Tripp wrote, and he gave me permission to take his story and add my characters into it and make it this sequel story. And like I said, we've been doing pre-production for that pretty much ever since we ended Bogman. Like you get that natural high from
Sure.
like, oh, we just got done doing this. I don't want to stop. All right, let's meet and talk about the next one. So we've been constantly doing that ever since we finished Bogman. But the way that we're kind of hoping it works out is if everything works with Green Apple and they end up financing it, they're going to send their producers to come and supervise the production to make sure that, we're professional, we're doing what we say, we're not, messing around, we're holding ourselves to a quality that they're, comfortable with. And if everything works out with that and they release it and things, by the time we start filming in January, we'll have an idea of what we're looking at as far as exposure and following for the Bogman out in the real world. So hopefully by the time we're starting to film Sea of Madness, I can go ahead and submit them the next script for the Bog anthology movie and just keep recycling the process for the rest of the 7-year contract, which means more and more movies coming here to Monroe and West Monroe to film. And that's something that really excites me is doing more movies here.
Man, that excites me too. I know we've had a few films filmed here in the Monroe West Monroe area. But to sit across the table from you and know that you're someone's had a passion for their dream for many years, and those who are watching this, I want to take away to be, or at least some of the takeaway to be that a dream will never be realized unless you put action behind it, and that sometimes it requires more work than other things. But you have been steadfast on trying to make something happen. Didn't happen overnight. But man, you are getting recognized from the fruits of your labor. And there's light at the end of the tunnel that says, now I have opportunity that I can strive to make happen. And there's no telling where it can go from here, right?
It's mine to lose. You know, like I got I told everybody else, I was like, we all rise up together. If one of us makes it, we all make it. And then it is our opportunity to mess up.
Yeah, and I keep going back to it, but you to sit back and give the credit to the people that are around you that's made this possible. I truly believe that when you rise up, everyone around you is going to rise up with you.
I really hope so. The people that have worked on this, you know, especially I've mentioned their names before, but people like Daniel Stark and Richard Henderson and Bree Hill and Kyle Simpson and Adam Bass, they have worked so hard with me and for me, and I just want to see all those people succeed as well. Like I know that, like, you know, some people say I have a small amount of success, and that's cool and that's fine. But I really, some of these people, I got to have a pretty cool run at life. You know, like I got to be in bands, I got to, you know, make albums, do music videos, do movies. Like if it all ended for me tomorrow, I had a very good run, you know, and I'm very happy with it. And a lot of the folks in my crew, they haven't had the same run that I had, and I want them to have that good run, you know. And
yeah, I completely understand. And I don't think your run's over with.
I hope not.
I think your run is just fixing to really get started. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come in and talk to us, tell us what's happening in our community.
Well, thank you so much.
I mean, it's just another example of why I love our community so much. When people say that there's nothing to do in this town, we can sit back and say, we have the arts, we have the entertainment, we have a lot to offer here in our community.
You just have to get out and go do it.
You just have to get out and put your yes on the table and get out and do it. How can people kind of follow your progress?
You can follow us on the Bogman Facebook page, the Bogman Film 2023. There's a Sea of Madness page as well. I have a YouTube page, Mitch Laing. You can follow me on YouTube. It has trailers for all of our stuff. My own personal Facebook account as well. And we are working on the website for the Open Heart Productions. It's going to be openheartproductionsfilms.com. It's going to be coming out around the time that we start production for Sea of Madness.
Fantastic. We'll try to do our part to put all of those areas, points of contact in our show notes so that if anyone wants to reach out to you, they can send you a message or just kind of follow along through your progress. So thank you so much, Mitch, for coming in.
It was
Man,
a
I
pleasure.
really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Welcome to the 318 Experience, the ultimate podcast for discovering the best of what our community has to offer. I'm Brian Bendily, your host and local realtor, with a passion for showcasing the people, attractions, and hidden treasures of Monroe, West Monroe, and beyond.